we took Eliezer through the story in detail from his point of view, and really engaged him with the terrain, and really tried to bring to life his reading of the forest.
Yeah, and he was there was he would like once we got into the jungle, he really sort of it was amazing how he was able, him and his friend Luis, who was also on the search, how they were able to get themselves back in the mindset of what it was like in the search, waking up every day, traipsing through the jungle, looking for signs.
I'm Felipe from Kienyke.com here in Colombia. Such a pleasure to meet you and be talking about this such a special project. My first question is, what made you decide to portray this story?
Should I answer? So, in the UK, we don't, like every country, our news is mostly UK centric, but this is a story that really broke through. And as the news of it started to filter through to us, and suddenly, towards the end, when the children were found after 40 days, after such a remarkable kind of and long hunt for them with so many people that seemed so fruitless. And the more I read about it, the more I read about the really interesting collaboration between the Special Forces and the Indigenous Guard. I thought, oh my God, there's something different here. The story does not feel like a straightforward, people lost in the jungle and they were rescued. It wasn't straightforward like that at all. It felt like it was a modern fairy story with a sort of sprinkle of magic in it. And so started investigating it some more and talking to people who were involved. And the more we spoke to people, we realized that we really wanted to make it, and it just felt like a good news story, especially at the moment in the world when everywhere you look, it's just a bit rubbish. And so we thought, oh, this just feels like, one from the heart, and we wanted to find out from the different perspective as well of, especially of the Indigenous Guard, because it felt like there was something that was very different from our experience of the world going on. So that was the catalyst really for wanting to make it. And the minute we realized that everybody in the family and the Indigenous Guard and the Special Forces would agree to work with us on this, Amazon very quickly said, yes, please, we'd love you to make this for us. So yeah, there you go. Just a great story.
Yeah. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, so basically what I'd heard about it at the time, I think it was reported on the news here when the plane was first discovered, and it was realized that the children were sort of alive and somewhere in the jungle, which I think was day 16. That's when I first read about it, but I actually wasn't attached to the project at that stage. I just remember reading it and thinking, wow, what an amazing story. But little did I know at the time, Emma was already in talks with Colombian producer and people on the ground there setting up the story. And yeah, I mean, probably not for like 2 or 3 months did I, because I've worked with Emma and Dolan at Emporium before. I got a call about it a bit later, and I kind of couldn't believe it that I was going to get the opportunity to work on such an interesting story. So it was, I like to think it was fate or destiny or something, but it was possibly a bit of that and a bit of luck.
A fatal destiny.
Yeah.
Sure. How easy
it was to get the
convince the family of
involved.
the kids?
Okay. Well, the family, the grandmother and nephew, not nephew, the sister, the brother, the uncle of the children, and the sister of the mum who died. They were the first people that we contacted. And actually, I think that, when the crash first happened, when the rescue first happened, the media was all over it, and everyone wanted to talk to the family. And then once everything died down, we started talking to them, and we explained that we wanted their version of events and what it was like for them. And we wanted them to help us tell the story of Leslie and her siblings as well. It's a different dynamic to just asking them how they felt. You know, we really wanted to explore for what it was really like day by day, and that, you know, the pain and eventual happiness and relief. And so very quickly, Fatima and Dairo agreed. And before it was even commissioned, I asked our Colombian producer to go upriver to Fatima's village to go and talk to her. And she invited him and our assistant producer in, and because it's you know, it's not that easy to get to, but it was lovely because you know, they were super welcoming, and they had so much to talk about. So the family were very keen to participate and to tell it from their perspective, because quite often in these things, you know, everybody else gets to talk about how wonderful they were and forgets what it must have been like waiting for news and feeling powerless and hoping against hope, and then realizing that they did have some power through prayer, and that they could effect a change.
Because everything happened so soon, what was the biggest challenge of the production?
Do you want to answer, Dolan and Tom?
Well, there were so many challenges, but one obviously was that the events unfolded in a very, very remote area, and so we obviously wanted to film in an area that was also remote and matched as far as we possibly could the real thing. And the more we got into it, and the more time we spent with the indigenous searchers, with Eliezer Munoz, the more important we realized it was to be to really sort of follow their authentic experience of the jungle. And that meant we had to go a very long way to a part of jungle that felt to them like it was exactly the same. And so there were quite a lot of challenges setting up a shoot in the remote Amazon. And Tom could probably fill you in a bit more, because he was with Eliezer during the section of the shooting where we took Eliezer through the story in detail from his point of view, and really engaged him with the terrain, and really tried to bring to life his reading of the forest.
Yeah, and he was he would, like, once we got into the jungle, he really sort of, it was amazing how he was able, him and his friend Luis, who was also on the search, how they were able to get themselves back in the mindset of what it was like in the search, waking up every day, traipsing through the jungle, looking for signs. And like, they even remembered specifically what fruits that they saw on the ground with like little children's nibble marks in them. They remembered discovering a shelter that Leslie had made for the children, which, because she didn't have any tools or a knife, she used her teeth to break the palms to make a shelter from the rain. So it was brilliant. It became quite immersive hearing Eliezer talk about that, and sort of getting him back into that mindset. The other thing that was a real challenge as well was, you know, the indigenous spiritual understanding of the jungle and their relationship with it. And, you know, we, from a Western mindset, it's very, very different to sort of how we relate with nature and how we think about it. So it's very important to sort of, A, try and get your head around it, because it's quite complex. But B, also very important for them to explain it in their words and from their point of view, rather than us impose what we think it is on it, if you know what I mean. So it was all we made sure from their point of view.
And then to tell the story in a way that gave equal weight to I suppose the more kind of Western technological perspective on the search, and to the indigenous searchers' perspective that involved all this spiritual wisdom and magic and all these extraordinary things that are much less familiar to us. So it was a big challenge to allow those perspectives to sit together in the story.
Yeah, amazing. One last question, guys. What is the thing that makes you proud the most about these projects?
Well, I'm sure we've all got different things. Tom, why don't you crack off?
Yeah, well, I mean, for a couple of things actually. For me, it's sort of I'm proud that we managed to get the indigenous side of the story out there, both from the family members that we spoke to, who gave us like firsthand accounts from the children of their experience, and from the searchers, Eliezer and Luisa Costa, who were integral to the search. The fact that we were able to spend so much time with them as primary sources, as key protagonists in the search, who were then able to tell us about it from their side, from their point of view. You know, I'm really glad that we managed to do that, A. And B, I was very proud personally of the young children that we got in the film to play the roles of the kids, because they're all indigenous kids themselves. None of them had ever acted before, and they were just amazing. They were brilliant. They just threw themselves into it. You know, I don't speak Spanish. They didn't speak English, and one of the kids didn't even speak Spanish. He only spoke an indigenous language, so it was like a double translation. But they were amazing. They worked really hard, and they were just an absolute joy to spend some time with in the jungle.
I mean, I mean, just echoing Tom, I mean, for me, if watching the film allowed people to understand the indigenous perspective on the forest and the jungle and the Amazon a tiny bit better, I would be very, very proud of that. And one thing we gradually understood, there are obviously so many worries and concerns about the conservation of the Amazon and about deforestation, and the Amazon is so important to everybody on the planet. And here are the people who have lived in it since times immemorial, and who do protect and conserve. And if our film can do a tiny bit towards allowing people to understand their relationship with the jungle and how important it is to maintain it, that would make me very proud.
Good. And for me, I think just, you know, in terms of the film itself, I think what I'm really proud of is that the whole thing is told exclusively through the main players within the search, and that what we're showing is it was called Operation Hope, and it turned into the hope of future relationship and building the relationship between the military and the state and indigenous peoples. And the whole experience gave Eliezer and other indigenous people involved, it gave them a self-belief and a belief that they can be strong and that their contribution matters. And he says that in the film. And I think to be able to convey that in this film and recognizing the heroism of General Pedro Sanchez, who had the wisdom to step outside the conventions and the norm, and to know when he needed to collaborate with other people and to carry that forth and not give up, because, you know, he could have given up a long time earlier and called the whole thing off, but he wouldn't. And you know, the way he ran that search was brilliant. And even today, you know, right at the beginning, before we started filming, you know, we met him and he invited us to a lecture he was giving, and we listened to the lecture. And even in that lecture to some students, he was talking about how important the collaboration was, and the experience and the contribution made by the Indigenous Guard. And for me, to be able to put that into the film, that whole idea of hope for finding the children, but hope for the future, I think that for me is a privilege to have been able to make it with the people who were involved in this fantastic story. I mean, this is a fairy story for the nation, but a true fairy story.
Yeah, completely. Okay, guys, thank you so much for this interview. It's a pleasure to meet you, and good luck with the premiere.